Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. This is BRN AM for Thursday, July 11th, 2024. And our top story today, survive your day after a bad night's sleep. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Dr. Eti Ben Simon is with the Center for Sleep Science at the University of California, Berkeley. Eti, it is so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Hi, great to be here, Jeffrey.
Thank you so much. And I have to be honest with you and the audience. Sleeping can be a challenge sometimes for me. I often don't get a good night's rest. I got a lot on my mind. And I guess my first question to you is my problem or my concern similar to other people, not only in the US, but around the world?
Absolutely. Getting a good night's sleep is not as easy as it seems. I mean, we may be technically doing nothing or looks like we're doing nothing, but there's so much going on when we're sleeping. And sometimes it just takes a while to really calm our brains and our bodies down to get a good night of sleep. And, technology is not helping. Society is not helping.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about that because when you look, you've been obviously doing a lot of sleep research. When you look back, maybe pre-internet to post-internet, were people sleeping better in the early 90s as opposed to when the late 90s into the 2000s when the internet kind of took off and we always had something to do?
We're actually seeing a decline in terms of duration of sleep already from the 50s and the 40s. So there's something about starting from the 60s, something about even just having a TV and having like more activity during the day and more things to do on our schedule that we're starting to see the sleep decline. But it's not just duration, it's also the quality of sleep. So you might take the time to be in bed, but still your mind is kind of whirling through all the things you want to do or you haven't done. And that really is an enemy to good quality of sleep. So stress and anxiety, these are things that we're seeing on the rise. Also, not just internet, just social media and our phones that are always with us. So we're seeing these changes, and these are things that are hard to tackle.
Yeah, and you mentioned stress and anxiety. When you don't get a good sleep, how does that affect you mentally and physically, your body? Because some people may have to go to work the next day, or they may have to play a baseball game, or they may have to do something else. So what is the impact physiologically and mentally to our bodies when we do not get the right amount of sleep?
I love that you asked them both together because people often think about how the body is affected, but the mind is just as affected. We've done a study where we keep students awake for just one night, and we saw an increase of up to 30% in how anxious they felt in the morning compared to the same students after we gave them a night of sleep. So we see a significant boost in anxiety. We see people's mood come tumbling down. They report feeling more confused, more depressed. They lack the energy. When we look in the body, we see changes in metabolism. So people's glucose tends to go higher. The function, the efficiency of their insulin is affected. Their immune function is affected. Memory is affected. Attention is affected. Basically, every psychological and physiological function that we can measure is affected by lack of sleep. So sleep is tremendously important if we want to have a healthy and happier lives.
I know neither of us were around when the time of the Neanderthals or the early humans, but do you think they but do you think they slept better because they had a heightened sense, they were hunter-gatherers? I'm just trying to understand,
I think that
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think that there are things that they had better and then things that they had worse. So for instance, we don't have to worry about, a lion or a bear coming into our bedroom. We don't have to worry about being too cold or too hot because usually we can control these things. On the other hand, they had more a sense of security in terms of, not being lonely, in terms of having their family around, in terms of not having so much to do the next day or to think about all the tasks that they need to do. So it's a balance. We have it better in terms of technology helping us, and we can control the weather, so to speak, in our own bedroom. We can control the noise or the light. But then on the other hand, we have this stress coming from 24-hour society that they didn't have to deal with. So I don't
Yeah,
know what I would choose.
I don't know. I think the lion chasing, that would kind of scare me a big deal. You know, I'd have to, me and my fellow Neanderthals or early humans would have to defend ourselves. Last question before we go to a commercial break. Caffeine. It's in so many different, it's in chocolate, it's in coffee, it's in tea, it's in a lot of, it's those energy drinks. That's seems to me from the outside looking in to be on the rise. Does that help balance out when you don't get a good night's sleep? Or does that affect you also physiologically?
Well, the issue with caffeine, it can give you a boost, but then some of it stays in your system and can really disrupt your sleep. So it's not a long-term solution. The best solution is to try and get as much sleep as you can every single night. So you can use it temporarily, but the thing is that it only masks your sense of tiredness and sleepiness. It doesn't cure it. The only
Yeah.
cure for sleepiness is sleep. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I would use it wisely.
Yeah, absolutely. Eti, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, how do you get a good night's sleep? We'll talk about some proper sleep hygiene. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Dr. Eti Ben Simon from the Center for Human Sleep Science at the University of California, Berkeley. Eti, thanks so much for staying with us. Really appreciate hanging around for segment number 2 this morning.
That's great to be here.
And I can tell you, based on this conversation, none of our viewers nodded off during this conversation. They're all going to get a great.
Even if they do, I would take it as a compliment.
That's right. Well, that's true. They could be dreaming about this conversation. All right, let's talk about, I'm going to call it sleep hygiene. There's probably a much better technical term. How do we settle into, you talked about the 24-hour society we live in here in the States, but also across the globe. We're not too different from some of the other, I would think some of the other, continents. But where do we start to get that good night's rest and give our body a chance to recuperate?
I think the first thing is prioritizing sleep. So often what we see is that people go into bed when they're too exhausted to do anything else. So sleep is basically kind of squeezed into that time where we're not just able to do anything else. I think that we should really take an 8 to 10 hour break from our day where we are dedicating to sleep. So that means that even an hour before bed, we have a wind down routine where we don't work and we don't do something that's too vigorous or can get our heart rates going. And we really settle into sleep. And the thing is with sleep is that often it's very easy to know when we're had enough sleep, so waking up, but it's not very easy to sense when it's time to go to bed. So when you have that wind down routine, you maybe dim the lights, you don't work, you sit on your sofa, you start to feel that sleepiness come to you. And that's a really good time to go to bed. Another thing that is to try and keep your bedroom as dark and as cool and as distraction-free as possible. So your bedroom is just a place for sleep. And when you do those and when you prioritize sleep, it takes some time to kind of relearn it, because we learn it as a kid. We have a sleep routine as a kid, but then we kind of stop doing that at some point. And I think it's actually a great idea to settle the time, to have the time to get into bed, get into the sleep mode. And then over time, you'll see that it becomes easier.
And just another question for you. We have these devices that are, I'm 52 years old. I carry this thing literally everywhere. A lot of people use these, Eti, for an alarm clock, but the blue light, having this readily available, probably not the best. You talked about having your bedroom be your bedroom. Probably not a good idea to keep this even on your nightstand.
If you keep it, just have it shut off, because you don't want anything to wake you up during bed. And also, if you're awake during the night, don't reach out for your phone, because the arousal, even if the blue light is not so detrimental in that short period of time, the arousal, the cognitive arousal, the fact that you're starting to see notifications and messages, that could wake you up and take you away from sleep. So yeah, those should be shut down as we are offline during the night. And another thing I'll say that generally, I think it's more important to actually put an alarm to go into bed than it is to get out of bed.
Okay.
So try and have, at least in the beginning, when you're just settling into a sleep routine, have a little alarm. It's time to close the computer. It's time to stop working. It's time to relax and wind down.
In terms of what to wear to bed, and I'm not talking about outfits or lingerie. I'm talking about how do you, when you settle into bed, you put that alarm on to go to bed. Is it really up to the individual in terms of what he or she wants to wear? If you want to go into a nightgown, if you want to wear pajamas, if you want to wear your underwear, you want to wear nothing. Is it really what should it be? What are you most comfortable with? Do you need to think about that?
I think you just need to think about not being too hot, because once you're either too hot or too cold, it's difficult. It's more difficult to fall asleep. And bedroom should be around like 65, 66 Fahrenheit for it to be very relevant for sleeping. So the thing is that when we want to fall asleep, we need to lose heat. If the room is too hot, our heat kind of stays trapped in our body and we can't fall asleep. So you don't want your room to be too hot. So anything that you want to wear that is comfortable for you in terms of that aspect of temperature, that's fine, as long as it's expensive.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, as long as it doesn't cost too much, but it still does what you need it to do. Question for you. We have two cats. The cats, I don't know if this is commonplace, but they like to sleep in the bed, not on the bed, not on us, but under the covers in between the bed.
That's
Thoughts
very
on
cute.
that? It is cute, but when you roll over, you got to be careful, and they get you up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, the thing
to do
with
that.
cats is that they're actually nocturnal. So
Yeah.
most of their sleep they're doing during the day. So I think a sleep divorce in this case, which they have their own bed, could be useful for both of you.
Yeah. And last question, there are so many beds on the marketplace today, and we're not going to name the brands because I don't think that's important, but we have a brand here in the States called 31 Flavors, Baskin Robbins. I always found it difficult to choose what flavor I like, so I just went with chocolate or vanilla. How about picking the bed? I mean, there's so many different choices. There are beds that, that you can dial up the firmness. There are beds that you can create coolness or create heat. There are beds that tilt in different directions. In your research, is there a benefit or a suggest, or can just the plain mattress work?
Yeah, plain mattress can definitely work. It's really a matter of individual choice and comfort. The most important thing is to have the time to actually use your mattress, to have it in a place that's really cozy and dark and quiet, and off you go.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly good rules of thumb, really important information, and I know that you will continue studying people and sharing this information. We thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
My pleasure, Jeffrey. Thanks so much.
That wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, then visit our website. Hey, we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. We'll have a very special guest and another important topic. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.